Welcome to The Explainer. We're all about taking complex topics and making them simple and, well, engaging.
So, here's a big question for you. Is the Quran actually built on a hidden mathematical code? I mean, it's a pretty wild idea, right? But there's this whole field of study that suggests the answer might just be yes. Let's dive in and see what's going on here.
All right, so to even start this journey, we have to look at the Quran in a slightly different way. Think of it less like just a sacred book and more like a massive divine mathematical puzzle.
And there's actually a name for this framework: the Unified Theory of Quranic Numerological Coherence, or UQNC for short. It's a bit of a mouthful, I know. But the core idea is pretty straightforward, that all these hidden numerical patterns, if they exist, are there for a reason. They're all pointing to one thing: the oneness of God, or Tawheed. And while the name is modern, this whole idea, this curiosity, it's been around for centuries.
Okay, so if people have been looking for this for so long, what were the first clues? What got them started on this whole thing in the first place?
Well, you can see from this timeline that the search for some kind of hidden code, it kicked off almost as soon as the text itself was revealed and put together. We're talking centuries of people, from scholars to mystics, poring over the text, convinced there was something more just beneath the surface.
Right off the bat, scholars notice some odd things about the Quran's structure. For one, it's not arranged chronologically. It's mostly organized from the longest chapters to the shortest. And then you have these mysterious, disjoined letters that just pop up at the start of 29 different chapters. It was things like this that made people think, there's got to be something else going on here. And the clues start right at the very beginning. Chapter 1, Al-Fatiha, the opening. It has a specific number of verses, and this number would turn out to be incredibly important for this whole investigation. That number is 7, exactly 7 verses. And what's interesting is that the Quran itself calls them these 7 oft-repeated verses. So for those early numerologists, this wasn't just a random number. No way! This was a deliberate clue, a starting point. Okay, so you might be thinking, sure, the short opening chapter has 7 verses. But this wasn't just about the small chapters. The longest chapter in the entire Quran, Al-Baqarah, also has a verse count that got people talking. It's got 286 verses. And this is a fantastic example of how numerology works. Someone looked at 286 and thought, okay, what can we do with these digits? So you take 2 plus 8 plus 6. That gets you 16. Still not 7, but wait. Take 1 plus 6, and bam, you're right back at 7. It all seemed to connect back to that key number from the very first chapter. You can see how they started seeing patterns everywhere. But just counting verses and adding up digits can only get you so far. To really dig deeper, researchers needed a way to find the numerical value hidden inside the actual words. And that tool was the abjad system. It's this really old system, kind of like gematria in other traditions, where every single one of the 28 letters in the Arabic alphabet gets a unique number. Alif is 1, Ba is 2, and so on. All of a sudden, it wasn't just about counting. The words themselves became numbers. So, for example, you take the Basmalah, that famous opening invocation. You run its letters through the abjad system, and you get a total value of 786. This was a game changer. It just blew open a whole new world of analysis for scholars and mystics. All right, let's fast forward a lot. We're jumping into the 20th century now, because this is when computers enter the picture, and they completely supercharge this ancient quest, leading to a really dramatic and very controversial new theory. So there's this one verse in the Quran, Surah 74, verse 30, that simply says, "Over it is 19. An Egyptian-American biochemist named Rashad Khalifa became absolutely obsessed with this verse and with the fact that the Basmalah, that opening phrase, has 19 letters. He got his hands on some early computers and started crunching the numbers. And he came back with a bombshell of a theory, that the number 19 wasn't just another pattern. He claimed it was the key, the ultimate mathematical signature of God, woven through the entire Quran, proving it was divinely authored. And the debate over this code 19 exploded. On one side, his supporters pointed to this incredibly complex web of things that were supposedly multiples of 19, word counts, letter counts, you name it. But on the other side, critics came out swinging.
They argued that the only way the pattern holds up is if you start, well, fudging the numbers. Things like changing how certain letters are counted, or, and this was the big one, completely removing two specific verses from the Quran. So you can imagine that didn't go over too well.
But here's the thing. Even with all that controversy, Khalifa's work really lit a fire. It got a whole new generation of researchers thinking, okay, maybe 19 isn't it? But what if there are other patterns? And that led to some really interesting new finds and some brand new mysteries. So, what kind of stuff are they finding now? Well, some researchers report that the Arabic word for day appears exactly 365 times, and the word for month, 12 times. It's pretty hard to ignore those numbers. Then you've got even more complex ideas, like the discovery of a so-called Quran constant that seems to link all 114 chapters to the golden ratio. You know, that famous mathematical proportion you see everywhere in nature. But in the middle of all these fascinating patterns that seem to connect to things we understand, like the calendar or the golden ratio, a new number has popped up. And this one's a total mystery, a complete enigma. That number is 237. People who study this stuff talk about it a lot, but here's the weird part. Nobody can find a clear reason for it to be there. It doesn't seem to connect to anything obvious in the text. So what could it be? Is it a hidden sum of some unknown phrase, a weird letter count across certain chapters, some super complex pattern we just haven't figured out yet? We don't know. The bottom line is 237 is still a total mystery. It's one of those unsolved pieces of the puzzle that keeps this whole field of study so compelling.
And all of this, the sevens, the 19s, the golden ratio, the mystery of 237, it all boils down to one final massive question. So what do you think? Are these numbers proof of a deliberate, divine mathematical blueprint? Or is this all just a fantastic example of what the human brain does best? Finding patterns, even where none were intended. It's the ultimate question. Divine code or just human perception?